Okay, hey, welcome to, looking the wrong way, welcome to Thursday, welcome to OnSet. I'm Daniel Norton, here is Paulina.
Hi.
And we're gonna make some pictures with Speedlights. So, I say the same thing a lot. I always say, when you start with flash, one of the first flashes that you should buy, or the first flash, should be a small flash or a Speedlight. I suppose I should show what that is, just in case somebody's new. So this is a Profoto A1, which is kind of what I'm talking about. It's a small kind of flash. The word small flash, Speedlight, people use them a lot. Typically, it means a flash that you can put on top of your camera. This is one of the most convenient ways to add light to your scene, and adding light to your scene is going to give you control to make the shots that you want to make. And that's ultimately what we want to do with lighting. So, put this guy back over here. We're going to make a variety of different shots today. We're going to mess around a bit, create some stuff, some different lighting patterns that might be good for different kinds of portraits, or could use them for fashion, things like that. And we're going to kind of push the limits, we'll say, what you can do with the Speedlight, because they're not perfect. The reality is that if you could just buy Speedlights, then you would never need anything else, right? But the reality is like they're not going to be as powerful as big flash, studio strobes, we call them. They're not going to recycle as fast per se. There's downsides to it, but we can definitely push them to their limits and get shots that, in many cases, are very similar to, if not exactly the same as you could have got with a large flash. So let's start at the beginning, right? Because that's usually where we start. I've got one here on my camera. This is, whenever I do the small flash one, I feel like I'm on a cooking show because they always have multiples of things. I have so many of these. So I have one on my camera, and we're going to start that way. First of all, we're going to do the thing we always do, which I'm going to turn it off, is we're going to make sure that none of the light in the space is going to affect our shot. So I'm going to set my camera at the lowest normal ISO, which is 100. I'm going to set it at the maximum normal sync speed, which is 200th of a second. And then I'm going to adjust my aperture until I can get essentially a black frame. Now, a lot of times I'm going to try to go around f8 in here. Because I'm using a Speedlight, which is by its nature slightly less powerful, I'm going to go a little bit less. I'm going to go, let's start at f8. Why not? I changed my mind already. I'm just going to frame it up and take a picture. Best shot of the night. There we go. This is essentially telling me that there's no light that is going to record in my image unless I use some other light source. If I turn some lights on or I add the flash or whatever, I can see just about how much by clicking here. I'm in capture 1. I move my exposure slider over till I start to see Paulina. There she is. We're looking at a little bit, almost between 2 and 3 stops of light. So that's good. I could probably afford to go a little bit lower on the power if I need to. But at this point, we know that any light that comes into this space that lights her up is going to be my fault. Yeah, it's so easy to put the blame on me, isn't it? So let's turn the flash on. Most flashes these days use something called TTL. Nobody really knows what that means. We think the ancient aliens that built the pyramids. No, it means through the lens. Through the lens what? Metering, right? TTL means we're going to use the meter that's in our camera. So if you've been using a flash, if you've been using a camera and whether you've been working in manual or you've been using aperture priority or however you work, you're using the meter in your camera to establish your exposure. TTL works the exact same way. So if I take my camera, my flash should say, put it on my camera. I'm using the little dome. Actually, we'll take it off. Flash here. I've got it in TTL mode. I'm going to leave my camera settings. There you go. There you go. Perfect exposure. I didn't even have to try. That looks a lot like the work I did in college. All right, anyways. All right, so we're going to take the flash, and we're going to point it at Paulina, and we're going to figure out where my focusing spot is. Where are you? Oh, don't worry, guys. I'm just setting my camera up. There it is. It was hiding in her hair. There it is. Focused. Boom. Oop. Ooh, 2 shots. 2 shots in a row. Just like that. Cover of Vogue. I'll see you later. Okay, so right, we know that before we shot this, I'm ignoring the shot on the floor, we had that, right? So all that light, all that beautiful, beautiful light is our responsibility. And with great responsibility, no. I don't know how it works. All right. This is showcasing, well, number one, you look great. So really, whatever, you don't need anything else. No, but this is showcasing a couple of things about small flash. Number one is that it is small. It's in the name, right? Which means that it is, by its nature, hard. On most things you're going to photograph if it's a portrait, because it's smaller than the thing you're photographing. Hard stop is based on the size of your light source relative to the subject. So we know it's a hard light source, and we can see that when we look at the shadows. Here, abrupt, sudden change, hard. Also, this type of flash tends to be specular. Specular has to do with your highlights, so we've got that shine, right? The shine is the specular highlight is basically the reflection of your source. Since our source is small, we've got this really bright shine reflected all over. Also, because it's sitting on top of my camera, the direction of light is also not that good. So far, what we've got is a good exposure. So if like I needed to get a picture because she was, robbing the bank, I got her, done. But if we're trying to make a cool or flattering portrait, this is just the beginning, right? Taking over the space. I should also mention, I totally skipped over, we got Dave on the Mighty Mix. So we gave Seth the day off. He deserves a break every once in a while. So Dave's over here, so if he yells at you in the chat room, you better listen. All right. What should we do? Make the light bigger? Right? We want to make the light bigger, right? We want to make it bigger because that will make it softer. And everybody knows that soft light is yummy. So we can do that a lot of different ways. We can add modifiers to it. We can get really close if our subject was small. But the simplest way is to bounce it, especially since I have it on my camera. I don't know if you've seen these guys, and girls maybe, right, that walk around with these like giant contraptions on their cameras. I don't want to do that. That's not cool. I'm one of the cool kids. I'm not going to build all that stuff. But no, you can just... All right. You would think I have stock in this company. This is the Elmer's brand. No, I'm not sure. Okay, no, before we do that. So, everybody knows that when your flash photography is not good, the very first thing you should do is bounce it off the ceiling, because that's what they told you in that book in 1975. So, hey, if it was written in 1975, it must be right. That was a good year. The Eagles were on the charts. Oh, yeah. Done. All right, so what's the problem with bouncing off the ceiling in our situation? Two things. Number one, I had a little more power in there, but it's been on the dark side, right? But even in this studio that's very, very bright, very, very white, the ceiling is so high, and I am so close to her that we can see that the shadow is just dropping straight down. So I just want to show you by grabbing my curve here. If I show you, if we start to really enhance our shadows, you can see where the shadow pattern is. Okay, it's all going straight down. Her eyes are basically completely in shadow, and it just drops down. It doesn't shape the face. It's just not very attractive, and that's because I'm so close. Now, if I was very far away and had a powerful enough flash, I could probably get the light where it needs to be, or possibly bouncing off this wall over here. But again, distance is not my friend in this case. But I think I spoiled it by showing it already. Believe it or not, I had this in my pocket earlier. Actually, yeah, I mean, no, it doesn't. It doesn't fold down. This is not very portable. However, there are portable pop-up reflectors you could get as well. And what we're going to do with this is we're going to create our own ceiling. This is impressive. Get ready for this one. We're going to need time. Now, I'm not going to bounce straight up because nobody bounced straight up except for Paula Abdul. Is that even a good joke anymore? Probably not, right? Nobody watches Paula. Okay, sorry. We'll work on that joke. All right, here we go. Remember I just said I don't put giant things on my camera? Clearly I lied. Also, that was a very odd pose. Okay. All right, so we're getting, yeah, I think I bounced that. Okay. Let's do it in a more controlled method. I'm going to do it like this, like the cool kids do it. There we go. There we go. All right, better, right? We're getting a bit better, right? If we look at our initial shot and we compare them, hard light, right? Light is softer here. We're getting a softer light source. We're still a bit on the specular side, but we can see how this is more gentle. Wraps around. You see how the face looks more dimensional, right? That's because the larger light source is giving us softer light, which means that we're getting this like slow transition from, the highlight point all the ways down into the shadow point. So it gives us definition. When we hit somebody with a hard light, it flattens everything out. So, which can be good if you're looking for that look. But see how much more luxurious that looks. She's like, I'm so luxurious. And all I did there was use a simple piece of board. Are you bored? No, she's not bored. Okay, so this is a Elmer's 2 by 3 foot Brooklyn reflector. All right. So I think you get the point there. I'm not going to dwell on this one too long. There are a few things people often ask about this thing. A lot of these flashes come with some kind of a dome. This will... Can you see the flash when I do that? You can, okay. So I think if you're looking at this, I fire the flash. Right? That's what it does. It makes it maybe a little bit bigger, not really. What it really does is scatter the light, right? Scattering the light is going to give us more options. If I was in a small space, and we talked about bouncing off the ceiling and stuff, this might help, right? Also, it's going to help later when we put it into a softbox. It just gives you a few more options. It's definitely worth using in many cases, but just know this doesn't really make it softer per se. It kind of just makes it scatter, more diffused in a lot of ways. And thus it's also called a diffuser. Let's actually use this because I just said it, so. And the other thing too, this is advanced right here. You can use this horizontally. I know, it's crazy. Okay, hold on, I gotta focus this, okay. There we go. Oh, look at how glorious that is. So there we go, right? Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And again, I'm not just randomly shooting. Well, I am randomly shooting. But I'm using a meter. The meter is in my camera. So I'm shooting in TTL, okay? I'm not just like guessing at the exposure. Every time I shoot, the flash is adjusting exposure to give me what it believes is the correct exposure. To me, that's a smidge dark, but we'll deal with that later. If you are using TTL and you feel like you're not getting the exact exposure you want, you can use what's called exposure compensation. So if I'm shooting, let's say, let's point right at it to make life easy. So let's say I take a shot. Let me move my little eyeball point over here onto your eyeball. Let's say I shoot this shot and I think, you know what, that's too bright. What I can do is I can go into TTL and be like, hey man, I know that you think this is the right exposure, and I don't want to rain on your parade. It's a little bit too bright for me. Could you turn that down a bit? This is also how I used to deal with my neighbor when I lived in Miami. All right. All right. Now we're a little bit darker, right? Exposure, flash, exposure compensation. Every time I shoot with TTL, it's making a new reading. By using flash exposure compensation, it's making the reading and it's adjusting the exposure, the reading, based on what I said. In this case, I told it to turn it down, man. Okay. Any questions so far? Pretty simple stuff right now. All right. Let's move on to the meat, to the potatoes, to the dessert. I don't know. We're going to move on. One of the best ways, if not the best way, to get nicer light that's more flattering, light that seems more unique to you, is to have the flash not on the camera, right? After a while, flash directly on the camera, it just becomes very flat, very the same. Bouncing helps a lot, but it only gives you so much, right? If we truly want to shape our light and move it around, we're going to want to get the flash off the camera. And many, many flash systems these days have built into them some kind of radio or also infrared, I guess in some of the cases, systems where they can remotely fire and use TTL off camera. So we're going to basically use that. I've got multiple flashes here. I have another one over here. So not only do I not have to hold the camera like a weirdo, I can also put the flash wherever I like. So here I have another one. This is fitted in the ProPhoto thingamabob that allows you to use ProPhoto accessory. I don't know what it's called. Speedlight doodad. It allows you to use any of the ProPhoto accessories with the light. We'll play with this a bit in a minute. But let's start with just the plain head. Let's just see what we can get without adding really any modifiers to it. Now, when you're talking about small flash, or any remote flashes really, typically you're going to have channels and groups. So your channels are like myself and Dave are both shooting in the same place. We want to be on 2 different channels so we don't affect each other's flash. Your groups are how you're going to set up your ratios. So in this case, I'm in group A with this first flash. So if I want to use other flashes, I can put them in different groups. So I learned from Joe McNally that you should always use a C-stand with a small flash, because why not? Yeah. What color background is this? This is blue. I think it's called, oh man.
It's like a baby blue.
It is like a baby blue background. It might be baby blue. I'm going to say it's baby blue. Or it's called sea blue, maybe?
Sea blue sounds proper, right?
Yeah.
Savage.
It's a Savage, yeah, it's either baby or sea blue.
I think it might be sea.
It's a beautiful blue background, though. Yeah, it's really pretty. And also, it's lighter than, I guess if you're watching the video, you see what color it is. It's lighter than you see in the image, and that's because of the inverse square law. I probably should note what color the background is. I will let you know. I mean, it wasn't in a box. Actually, it wasn't in a box. Actually, it wasn't a box. Hold on, let me stop the entire live stream. I will tell you what kind of paper this is. Lemonade.
Lemonade?
It's not lemonade. Clearly somebody put it back in the wrong box.
Yeah.
I went through all of that, and it says lemonade. Come on, Brett. Okay, so I think it's called sea blue. Sorry. All right, we don't necessarily want this flash to affect our shot, though, right? Because we don't want directional flash. So I've got this in the A group. I'm going to turn this guy over here, and I'm going to go into my menus. And I'm basically going to turn on what's called air, which is their remote. There's a part that's called air transmit only. I'm going to hit that. And then head off. This is going to allow me to fire that flash and not this one. Magic. Johnson. Excellent basketball player. All right. Still using TTL, because that's how I roll. I'm going to come over here, and you can usually look this way. And we're going to come in. And we're going to get my focus spot over here onto her eyeball. Here we go. All right, we're going to see what the TTL does now. Okay, that's again, hard light, side lit. But already we're creating something a little more interesting, right? So let's have you turn completely sideways, so like a profile. Yeah, so remember your light's here, so turn. Yep. And some lights have a Marlin light. Yep, we're going to center it on your face. So look right at that. Don't look at the light, but look right below it with your whole face. So I'm going to have her look towards the light. Carol Ann. Oh, blink. I know you did. Go back. Wow, I keep double tapping. I'm a double tapper. Okay, now we're creating light that has some flavor, some texture to it. Right? Some shadow, some depth, not that clearly, right? We can actually shape the face. Still, this is very hard, right? So let's combine, right? Let's combine what we know. We know that taking it off the camera and giving it more direction is going to be more interesting, but we also know that hard light is not necessarily going to be the most flattering thing. We might want to make it a little bit softer. So what better to make a light soft than a soft box? It's literally in the name. So I'm going to come over here. And because this is a small flash, and I'm lighting up just a small, of course I'm not going to find the one I want. This is a small section. I just want to light this up with the little baby softbox, which I have right here. Was it the first thing I pulled out? Oh yeah, here it is.
I'm not fully understanding this question. Do you recommend beginners still start on off-camera flash, or should we go OCF?
Should we go what?
Or should we go OCF? Which I think is,
OCF.
I think they mean Speedlight and modifiers slash, or should we go
All right, well,
the proposed
OCF means off-camera flash, which I guess is the opposite of on-camera flash. I mean, I think if you are, so the question is, should we start with small flash like I just said, or should we go with OCF, which I guess what you mean is like strobes, like portable strobes. It really kind of depends. I mean, I feel like I just yelled there for some reason. If you're somebody who is like, you know what, I'm doing photography, I'm gonna make portraits, this is what I wanna do, I've got a little cash, sure, buy yourself some actual proper big strobes. But I think for a lot of people, they just wanna have something. And I think that a Speedlight is going to be something that you'll keep with you. The problem with other flashes, bigger ones, no matter how small they might actually be, like let's say a ProPhoto B10 or something, right? In my case, it's small, but it's not something I'm gonna always have. I always have with me an A1 because they're so little. You know, they just fit right in my case. So I recommend for most people, unless you're going to really be serious and you know that right up front, it's still worthwhile to at least have one small flash. Would I buy 4 of them like I have for most people? No, definitely not. If you know you're that far into it, you probably want to get some kind of, what you're calling OCF, if I'm understanding you correctly. But for your very first light, I think having one makes a lot of sense. Pauline's like, you better get a better light on me now. All right, so now we've got an octa. A few things are happening here. We still got to adjust it, we still got to make it nicer, but we can see that the light's softer, right? We can see that shadow edge versus this shadow edge. But also, notice the background, right? Because now, instead of this dome which we had that was just throwing the light everywhere, we're funneling our light down, right? We're funneling it down. That's giving us control, right? So again, we like that blue background, but if we want it to be a little bit darker, we can swing it around, the light around this way a bit more, feather it. This control is going to allow us to shape the light to our will. Bend the light to my will. Right, and now we've got darker background. You can almost barely pick up that blue back there, the midnight blue, right? This light is shaping around. You can see that she's more confident. Right. And there we go, right? We've got it, right? We're starting to shape this. We're starting to make it work. And this is the beginning of something good. Now, as we know, if you truly want to make it as a photographer, you've got to know one rule. The more lights you use, the more money you make. So we can't just have one light. She's not going to want to pay for just one light. We've got to have some more lights. So I've got another light. Here we are. No, you know what? We're going to use this light. That's right. I got another one right here. This is in a 3-foot octa. And I'm going to use this one because people always say, Daniel, can I use a 3-foot octa with a small flash? Yeah, you can. Is there an internal diffuser in the octa?
I think either one.
Yes. Yes. There are internal diffusers in the Octus. Besides the diffuser that's also on top of the flash. Keep in mind, this is not firing. Still charging for it, but it's not firing. Still in TTL, right? Now we're starting to shape the light, right? We've got some light over here. You can see it on her fingers. It's coming across, filling in, giving her more room to move around, right? That. Boom, 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 right? Stylish. So work your face more towards this light. Yep. And we can start to create mood, right? Now, if we want, right, let's say we like this, but she wants to move more forward like she was doing, and we want to get more light in the background because, you know, why not have both things? You know what we can do too? I know. This is very advanced, but for you guys, I will do it. Now, I know what you're saying. Daniel, shouldn't you have a sandbag on that? Yeah, probably. All right. No, we haven't knocked out any malls in a while. All right. No, it's fine. That's not going anywhere. Okay. That's right. Softbox, we're not going to worry about it. All right. So, again, I'm in TTL. So, let's come back. Let's move that around that way. Now we've got a light that's a little bit more directional, right? A little more kind of classic beauty. We got that color back on the background. We've still got that separation light. And again, really quick, we can move these around. Let's say that that light was too much, and we want some fill, some Dr. Fill. Here's another light, right? Boom, look at that. Ooh. Now we can't see me. I'm hiding. Now here we might have to adjust a bit. Oh, actually no. Perfect. Okay. Okay, so we've got centered light, looks really pretty. Shadow's a bit dark. Same thing. Shadow's filled in. We call on-axis fill, right? Fill coming from the direction of the camera. Now, you could do this a lot of different ways. You could bounce it into a board, you could do whatever, but I typically like my fill to be larger than my key. I know that's controversial. I don't know why it should be, but it is. Because my key light is shaping the face. I like a smaller key light that's going to shape the face and a larger fill that's going to not really feel like it's there. It should just fill in, thus the name fill. Now, let's say that you don't have a spare 3-foot octa just laying around. I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't, but let's say you don't. There's lots of ways we can do this. We could have the flash on our camera, right? Here's the flash. It's on my camera. I could do something with it. I mean, it's just sitting there, being lazy. I'm kind of too lazy. Oh, there we go. I was being lazy myself. All right, so I have another C-stand here. I'm lighting up Paulina. She's like, you know, I feel like the shadow density is a little bit too much. And I'm like, really? Fine. So I grab my board, Berkeley reflector, patented 2017. Same thing, right there. Take this guy, take this off, because that's going to eat up some light. Let's throw this guy on. All right, this is almost at 9. So here, this is in my D group, which does not have TTL. And I don't feel like changing it because, you know, that'd be too easy. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at it. I'm going to go, well, I want this to fill in on this. It's further away by almost double. It's also bouncing. So I'm going to set it at the same power. Let's go here. All right. Oh. All right, let's, wrong button. All right. I didn't change that one, did I? No, okay. Okay, good, that's working. There we go. Is that gonna go over my head? I have kind of a big head, but hold on, changing my focus point.
Maybe also reiterate that your Speedlight on top of the camera is also acting as a
Okay, so at this point, my speed light on top of the camera is not only acting as my, well, I really cut off your head in a strange way. Hold on. That was a strange crop, Daniel. I mean, I do like to cut off the tops of people's heads, but that was a little bit of a strange one. I was trying to not get my own giant melon in the shot. Okay. Did you blink? No, perfect. Okay, so here, well, this guy's also firing, but that's, it wasn't doing anything. Okay, so here we've got a small flash in a 2-foot octa giving our main shape to the face. On top of my camera is a second small flash acting as the transmitter to fire everything, as well as a fill light by bouncing off of this board, creating on-axis fill. Now again, you could just point the small flash at her for fill. We'll do that as well to show you the difference. That would make your fill light smaller, which is not my favorite way to do it, but again, also works. So let's do this. Just in case you paid $2,000 for small flashes but couldn't afford a piece of foam board, you know, let's show you how to do this. Now, because I'm pointing it directly at her, I'm going to lower it by 2 stops. Good. Also works, right? Both ways are acceptable. The main difference here is that this fill light, you can do 2 things. Number 1, we have a much more noticeable secondary, let me bring both of these up. 2 differences. Here we have a much more noticeable secondary catch light. Here the catch light is basically the same, right? You basically see the small catch light. Here, the fill is so soft, it barely kind of kicks in at all. Here, it very much fills in. So you got a lot more fill, a lot more specularity, and you even get a secondary shadow pattern. Well, not secondary, but really this becomes almost a main light. So it really kind of depends on the look you're going for. This is a little bit more, with the on-camera flash, it's a little bit more glamorous, a little bit more punchy, whereas this is a little bit softer. So depending on the person, you know, you might want this. Like with Paulina, we might want this more glamorous shot because she can really, you know, her features handle that hard light. Whereas if somebody couldn't handle it as much, they would want the softer fill. So you kind of can decide. There's not one that's right or wrong. It just kind of depends on what you want to do. What you want to do. All right, what do you think about that? That was pretty good, right? Yeah, she's pretty happy with that. She's like, it's about time. Okay, well, let's go in and shoot something with the big octagon, though. You know, you're like, hey, Daniel, what about the big octa? You said I could shoot with the big octa, and then you didn't do it. Well, you know, I say a lot of things. Okay, so that's in the C group. This is in the B group. So I'm going to bring this guy over. Models all love this one. When this comes out, they're like, oh yeah, the big octa. Softness all around. Okay, so I'm going to come over here. And I'm going to go into my menus again. I'm going to leave air on, because I need that, but I'm going to turn the head off, because I don't want to use this one as a fill anymore. Okay, then I'm going to come over, switch back to CTL. I'm going to turn off the A group, and the C group for that matter. And just only run the B group, which is that guy. Yep, right, boom, there you go. Okay. Move my little focus pot onto your face. Good. And now we've got 3-foot octa. Okay, it's a little bit on the darker side, for my taste. Wow, it is almost maxed out. So here we are. We're starting to reach a little bit of a limitation point, right? We've got a 3/4 shot. I mean, yeah, I am shooting at f8. I could very easily go down to 5.6 and not pick up any of the light in the shot, but let's just see what happens if we just turn our flash up. I'm going to switch to manual. Okay, and then I'm going to crank this. I guess I could do it from the thing, but I'm here now. I'm going to turn that up. Let's do a test. Yeah, there we go. Let's see how much juice we can get out of this. Good. Oh, sorry, one more. Bad timing. Good. All right. All right. That's not terrible. I'm not loving the angle of the light, but okay, I think we got it. We're really maxing this light out, right? So what am I going to do? Two things I can do. One is call upon the inverse square law, move it closer. But also because I'm not loving the angle, I'm going to kind of swoop it this way and point it at her a little bit more. Typically, I'm feathering my light a lot, but in this case, I think we can get away with. We may have to adjust slightly. There we go. A couple of quick changes. I'm liking it. I feel like the light's a little bit low for her. So I'm going to tip it down. And this has less to do with speed lights and more to do with just how I want the light to look. Was there a question? No. Okay, cool. We're coming in, again, 3-foot octa. Single speed light, 3-foot octa. And there we go, right? You knew I was going to get there, guys. You knew it. I can't just give it to you the first time. Come on. Got to work for it, right? They got to work for it. Yeah, all right. So I like this. But let's say you were like, Daniel, can you make the background blue? And I was like, maybe? All right, so let's take our second light. And again, because this adapter allows me to use any of my studio strobe stuff, I've got this thingy, which is the ProPhoto thing, baba, that allows you to put gels. Well, I actually think it's called the gel thingy. Gels and grids. So I'm going to put, very neatly, let's see, this is half CTO. Listen, if you're going to go CTO, you might as well go full CTO. I'm going full CTO. So what CTO gel does is it converts daylight to tungsten white balance. So in effect, I'm going to get a warm light out of this if I leave my white balance set where it is. So we're going to mix warm light on a cool background. No, we're not. That's too easy. I'm going to do a little warm hair light. It'll be just like sunset. All right, here we go. That seems about right. That is in the B group. So I'm going to go over to B. I'm going to be like, yo, B. Actually, no, that's in the B group. That's in the A group, I guess, right? That's in the B group. I'm going to turn the A group back on and switch back to TTL. Let's see what we get. So again, this is my base exposure. Oh, wow, okay. Man, in 1984, I took this exact same picture, and I thought it was amazing. All right, two things are going on. Number one, this flash is too high, both in power and in position. So let's switch the C-stand over here. Get this thing lower. If you're not like manipulating your C-stand into weird positions, then you're not having half the fun that you could be having. Yep. I am on TTL currently. I was on manual the 2 frames ago, but I switched back to TTL to get a base exposure. I always find that it's a good idea to just come into it with the TTL exposure at the beginning if you're unsure. Now I can tell you that this one right here looks good to me. The one in the back, not so much. So I'm going to switch to manual. And I'm going to take that backlight, which is A, and I'm going to dial it down 2 full stops. Because I feel like it was a little too bright for me. 2 full stops is only a little bit too bright. All right. All right. This is going to give us only a hint of warmth. Right there. Huh. I think we can go a little bit warmer than that, a little bit more than that. Somewhere in the middle. I think what we're getting is, here's where having a modeling light is nice, guys. I'm just going to throw this modeling light up. Yeah, I went too low. You know what's interesting? This gel holder thing is, oh, I see what's happening. 2 things happened here, guys. These heads zoom, like most Speedlight heads. And because I didn't have it on the camera, it wasn't adjusting automatically. So I actually had it zoomed very, very narrow, beamed. So I think we weren't hitting her with it enough. Of course, now that I zoomed the head that way, I'm sure I lost some power, so I'm going to turn it up. Okay. Yeah, that's, oh. It's like a disco in there for a second. All right, here we go. Yeah, a discotheque. All right, let's see. All right, smidge bright. I may have to default back down to TTL for this because it's avoiding me. So that's that. Oh, I keep tuning the wrong one. Okay, so that's in the A group. I'm going to turn it down, half a stop, and we'll try another shot. Oh, yeah, I can see it very glorious on your hair. It's like this, the end of the day. She's like, oh, this warm light is coming in the window. There we go. We're getting it better. And we can see that we're creating this, this hard light. Now, you might be saying, Daniel, because it's my name, why, oh, why, oh, no, because that's A model. There we go. Turn the model off. Why are you hitting her with a hard light back there instead of a soft light? And the reason for that is, if there were light coming into the space, like through a window, let's say, and it was coming from the back, it would be generally a harder light source. And then the light in the space that was reflecting back on her, unless she was being lit by, you know, whatever, inside lights, would be soft, right? Because when I'm inside this space, right, light comes through the windows, it bounces all around, and then it, like the shadow side of me is soft. So by balancing a hard light and a soft light, we create an image that feels more realistic, and that's why we're using both types of light here. Once again, one is not necessarily better or worse, it just is what it is. It is what it is, kid. Now, just because I'm that kind of guy that likes to use everything that's here, I'm going to take this. What do you think, Dave? Dave thinks it's a good idea. I could tell. So let's see. I don't know if you'll be able to see this, guys, but I'm going to. Yeah. Right. So the warm light's going to come forward and bounce off this board, and then, in theory, it's going to bounce back onto her grill. Just a little bit. It shall be subtle. Yeah, there we go. A little bit of warm glow upon her skin. Right? Again, adding to the feeling that there's something real happening here, right? Light's coming through the window. It feels like something. We're able to build upon what's there. There we go, right? Easy as that. Now, what would happen if, what lens am I shooting with? 24 to 70 f4.0. 5, 3, 2, 1. Sorry. Let's see what happens if we just shoot the backlight. Oh, she's going to sneeze.
Yeah.
Oh, I have to actually turn it off if I don't want it to fire. Let me try that again. It's not, right? Okay. Yeah, it didn't fire. Just so you guys can see how much light, right, was coming back. Because remember, here we go. This is the fill, right? When we're setting our fill light, we want it to be whatever percentage below our main light. A lot of times people ask me about ratios, right? So let's bring this up to actual exposure and see where our fill is. So our fill light is about 2.5 stops under, right? And there you go. So now we know where our fill light would be relative to our other light, and we see how warm it is. That's what's giving her that warm glow over her whole body. All right. Nice. Little side thing. And then, there's one more thing. I mean, there's never just one more thing. There's one more thing that I wanted to do, because I haven't done it yet, because this is new for me. This device is, anyways, is that this little doodad, the Profoto doodaddy, that allows you to use any accessory, should allow me to use a beauty dish. Dun, 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 dun. I know what you're saying. You're like, a beauty dish? Really? For beauty? Well, it's in the name. This is it live on YouTube. First time ever in the history of man will we attempt to do this. Yeah, well, yeah. I don't think anybody's ever tried this before in the whole world. All right, beauty dish. I left the dome on, actually. I feel like the dome will help. Yeah, me too. Now, in this case, a beauty dish is generally considered a hard reflector. Hard reflector will hurt when it falls on her head, so we're going to put a sandbag on there. This is not the sandbag that's full of pennies or rocks. The sandbag that's full of rocks is completely useless. I don't know what the purpose of that sandbag is. It doesn't even weigh anything. It's like it barely weighs anything. All right, so. I mean, I didn't read the instructions, so I'm not sure if this is even supposed to work like this, but I feel like it should. Because, I mean, if anything can fit on it, right, then why wouldn't anything work? Here we go. First time ever attempted on network television. This is a Profoto silver beauty dish with a grid. Oh boy. Hold on to your hats. In a small flash, yeah. Right, because obviously we've used a beauty dish before. Oh, it worked. Aha! She doesn't seem surprised. Yeah, that actually worked pretty well, and it's at 7.7, so we've actually got a decent amount of juice left. Let's make a good shot at this. I'm going to pull out the grid because, you know, once you've used the grid, you can charge for it, so we don't have to use it all the time. That's going to give us a little more power, but it's also going to give us the ability to fill a bit because I think I want to get a little filler in there. Typically with beauty stuff, I'm going to want a little bit of a fill light, a little bit of a reflector, like that. All right, I'm switching to TTL. There we go. Done and done. Yeah, look at that. clean.com. Now, we're not just going to leave it at that. Why would we leave it at that? Let's get a little bit of light in the background. Actually, let's do this. Let's light the background. The Speedlight is in the C group. I'm going to take off the dome, and I'm going to zoom it. I've been doing a lot of zoom during this COVID. And we're going to put it here to create a gradient. Yeah, looks about right. All right, let's see what that looks like. All right, let's see what happens here. We got this in, again, we got it in TTL. The light on the camera is not firing, it's just acting as a trigger. We've got one light shooting up the, oh, yeah, look at that. Beautiful. We've got the beauty dish as our key. We've got a Brooklyn reflector as a fill. I might add another light there. Background is getting a wash of light. I think the background's a little bit too bright. So I'm going to do a series of things now, guys, to make this. No, you know what? With beauty, you want to spend as much money as possible. You're not a beauty photographer if you're not spending money. I mean, just look at how much beauty dish costs. All right, we're going to use the 3-foot octa, right? Because I could just use a piece of foam card. But come on now. Do I call myself a beauty photographer if I'm only spending $4.99 plus tax? Okay, on-axis fill. Background. So that's our B light. Okay, so here we go. About to get complicated. I'm going to take my background light. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to turn on this fill light first. Now, I already know it's a fill light, so I want it to be a little bit less powerful. But again, I like to just see what TTL will give me before I do anything else. So let's take the card out for a second. Okay, here we go. So this is everything at TTL normal. Okay, that's not terrible. Now, I think I want my shadows filled in a smidge more than that. And I think my background is too bright. So I'm going to switch to manual. I'm going to take the B light, which is my fill, and I'm going to turn it up half a stop. Then I'm going to take the C light, which is my background, and I'm going to turn it down a stop.
The question is, when you're shooting models in a studio setup such as this, what do you set your autofocus to? Like,
What do I set my autofocus to? Right now, I have it on single point autofocus, and I am moving it around to focus on her eye. Sometimes I put it on the eyeball focus. It just kind of depends. It happens to be on single point right now, so. Well, I mean, it just depends. Yeah. All right, that's pretty nice. Okay, that's pretty good. I still want a little bit more fill from the front, I think. So I'm going to take my B light. I'm going to dial it up. And again, this is like seasoning, right? We're adjusting to taste. So I want to see how much fill I want. Good. The background looks pretty good now. Ah, there we go. Okay, so we've got this background glow. We've got our fill light here. We've got our key light here, shaping the face. That looks pretty good. So now, let's take one more, and then I'm going to actually come in and there we go. Chin down a smidge. Right there. Good. Good. Focusing. Good. Nice. So I'm just shooting a few here so that Pauline doesn't hate me later. Good. Good. All right. But now let's play around a little bit. Let's turn our A light off. Keeping in mind that A is for Apple, right? So that's our key light. So now we're looking at our fill light. Remember I talked about that before. Look at where the fill light is. Now we grab this slider, move it over till it looks about normal, and where are we at? A little bit less than 2 stops. So people often ask me about ratios. That's kind of why I'm doing this for you guys. So you can see, even though I didn't go into this going, well, my ratio should be, I'm eyeballing it. But in the end, we're somewhere around 2 stops is pretty much generally a good place to fall. That gives you a good shadow to neutral exposure. My background, of course, has that nice stripe of light coming up, but we could adjust it slightly. Let's try one quick thing. I'm moving the flash closer to the background, pointing it straight up. Let's just see if we can get a slightly different pattern here. Well, I didn't turn the front light back on. Oh, but that's good. Okay, good. All right. There we go. We're bringing it home. Here we go. What's that? Yeah, exactly. You're seeing the ripples in the paper. Yeah, because the paper is so wrinkled that the light coming up is actually doing that. And it's far enough out of focus that it looks kind of nice. We can see that one hot spot right here. So maybe just, can you see that? See how we can see between your, yeah. See if we can kill that. There we go. Yeah, that's nice. Good, good, good. Here we go. Last one. Boom. Nice. You know what? See if you can spin your legs this way so they're not facing towards me. Yeah. And then you can twist the top part of your body. Yeah, there we go. She's like, you're in like a barber chair. Yeah, there we go. That's nice. Good. Let's make sure that the face is kind of towards the Beauty Edition. There we go. Oh yeah, there we go. I like that kind of like strange dappled look back here, but then also the idea of like this like bright spot kind of almost like popping behind her. It almost looks like you like over sharpened it like in post. You know, you add that like unsharp mask. Cool. I think now that I moved her, her face looks a tiny, tiny bit dark. So I'm actually just going to throw a little bit of light on my A. And we'll take one more shot. Any other questions? Because we're wrapping it up. Good, good, good. One more. I think I was losing the edge of the paper, but it was fine. Oh, no, I wasn't. Okay. Nice. Yeah, I like that. It's got that weird kind of... like weird post, like somebody screwed up post-production, but we did it in camera. It just has that weird shape to it. Try one more thing. Yeah, right, exactly. Like some kind of weird, like wrongly done burn. Oh no, it's very cool. All right, one more shot. I moved the flash further from the background, but I still kept it pointed straight up. I want to see if I can keep that effect, but make it a little bit less exaggerated. There we go. All right, so I moved it away so it made the effect less exaggerated and less of a hot spot. Cool. One more, we'll just throw your hair back so it's not coming from. How did I know to adjust a full stop? Well, that's a good question. Part of like your adjustments are going to come from your personal experience and what you like. So we know that a full stop is double or half the amount of light. So if I look at something, I can kind of usually judge, but that comes with experience. Although I will say that I tend to like to go further than I think is right. Like if I'm looking at it, I'm like, it could be 3/4 of a stop. I'll often go a full stop because I'd rather see it blown out. I hate to do another test shot and then see it doesn't look like anything happened. Like I'd rather go too far. That's just the way that I like to do it. So I tend to do stuff in full stops until I get close to where I want it. Then I will adjust it in smaller increments after that.
Just like contrast.
Right, just like contrast, exactly. You just have to kind of figure it out, right? I know that's not the answer you want to hear, but I mean, the reality is you just have to try, you know? But you get used to it after a while. And also your flashes and who's in front of you. But if you didn't know, I mean, if I was looking at this, to give you a more precise answer, if I was looking at this and I was like, okay, I guess it was probably this. And I was like, oh, this is too dark, right? I said, oh, that's too dark on her face. What you could do is grab your slider and move it over till it looks right. Yeah, third of a stop. And I raised it 3/10 because I was just used to that, right? But the reality is you just get used to it. After a while, you can see here, it looks good. And that's after I raised it up. Yes, that's that. Okay, questions, thoughts, concerns? Anything? Anything? How you feeling? Pretty good? She's feeling good. She's feeling good. She likes that blue background. Besides the color of the background, which I'm going to think of the name of the blue. I will write it in the comment below in the thing when I look it up. No, nothing? Okay, I think.
Talk about like the autofocus again, wide area or zone.
Autofocus? It really depends on what you're doing, you know. In a more set up shot, like a beauty shot or a portrait, I like single point, you know. That's how I work. If you're using the eye autofocus in this camera, you have to put it on the full field, whatever. So if you want to use that, then that's also fine. I mean, any autofocus that works for you. What I would recommend you do is try. If you're basing everything you do off what somebody tells you to do on some video, then you need to be experimenting more, you know.
And also, difference between fashion versus portrait is this kind of thing.
Right, so the difference between fashion and portrait. So I always call this one this because I want to show you a variety of types of lighting. The difference between fashion and portrait really comes down a lot of times to attitude and how you want to put it forth. Fashion stuff is less, in my mind, is a little bit less structured in the sense that I can't tell you 3 good fashion lightings. Anybody who tells you that isn't a fashion photographer because it changes too rapidly for you to really be able to tell somebody what is a fashion lighting. Fashion has to do with the model, it has to do with the moment, it has to do with the flavor you want to get. With portrait stuff is pretty cut and dry. I make fun of it a lot of times, I joke about old portrait books, but the reality is those same 3-point lighting portrait books that were written in 1970s are still good. They're still 3-point lighting, that's still how you light portraits for the most part. Fashion is always changing and evolving, so that's why I kind of, it's hard to really nail down what's what. But that's generally what I would say. It's more about a feeling, what's hip, what's happening now, what has to do with that actual moment is more of a fashion type lighting. Where portrait lighting is more structured and things that you could very well space out. And if there's a name for it, if it's called something, it's probably not a fashion light. Anything else? Okay, cool. Well, thanks Paulina and Dave. We are back on the 8th or 9th, I can't remember which day is the Thursday. I think the 8th of April. So that should be awesome. It could be the 9th, whatever day the Thursday is. And then also the week after that for some reason. So we got 2 weeks in a row. Well, no, it must be the 8th. It's the 8th of April. We'll be back. If there's anything you guys want to see in these live streams, because I'm doing them a couple times, sometimes 3 times a month, put information, put it in the comments below so I can adjust these as people are looking for, whatever they're looking for, right?
2 last minute questions just popped up.
2 questions. Shoot.
How do you use a beauty dish without the boom on? They have trouble with nightstands being light.
Right, okay.
And then the other one is that softbox the size limit that you would recommend for a softbox?
Okay, so 2 questions. So the first one is how to use a beauty dish without a boom arm. Well, I mean, I'll do it. Give me 1 second. I'll answer the other one, though. Is that the biggest box I'd use? I mean, probably. I don't tend to use really giant boxes anyways. Can you use a 5-foot octa with a Speedlight? Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm shooting at a pretty, in a pretty bright space. I'm 100 ISO, f8, 200th of a second in here to get it dark. If you're working in a smaller space where you can shoot it like f4 or a space that doesn't have daylight coming in or something, then you could easily use a bigger box if you desire. I don't typically use giant boxes, so for me, yes. If you only have a regular light stand and you want to use a beauty dish, what you need to do is this. get close to the stand. The stand won't hurt you. I mean, I didn't have any TTL, so it's a little overexposed. But yeah, if you don't have a boom arm, you just got to get close to the stand. You're never going to be directly under it, of course. I mean, the other way to do it would be to put it back further, but beauty dishes really should be used close. So yeah, it's not exactly centered, but that's pretty close. So yeah, just get close to your stand. You should be fine. Other questions? Cool. All right, guys. Like I said, I'll be back on the 8th. Thanks, Paulina. Thanks, Dave. Awkward ending.